I'm listening to nearly 100 albums from the year 1955, and I just finished listening to the original soundtrack from Oklahoma, released on Capitol. Oklahoma is one of the most famous Broadway musicals of all time, and it's interesting. I think it's very easy to lose sight of how influential this musical was when it originally came out in the early 40s. This was the first collaboration between Richard Rodgers, who already had staked an incredibly influential name for himself as a composer, with the lyricist Oscar Hammerstein, who himself was also revered before the two began collaborating together. And this musical is very responsible for shaping the Broadway musical into what we know it today, the mixture of story and song that before Oklahoma, very other musicals had done as effectively and thoroughly and convincingly. And I bring this up because, again, it can be easy to lose sight of that when something like Oklahoma is so culturally ingrained and feels like such a product of its time, which it is to some extent. There's a sort of innocent charm to it that has not necessarily aged incredibly well, but what I will say is that I think this recording here of the soundtrack actually has aged pretty damn well, all things considered. I understand that Broadway soundtracks are not the most cohesive and coherent listening experience a lot of the time if you're taking the story out of it, but really, here, I think this works fairly well, and the performances and the sound of it, really, this is an amazingly well recorded record, really comes out in droves. There's some great musical numbers on here, like "Oh What a Beautiful Morning" and "Kansas City," and the title number that closes the record out. Just sound fantastic, especially with the kind of stereophonic mix, which is what you can hear on streaming services. Just sounds really vibrant and brilliant, and the cast does a really great job here. So, again, it's hard to recommend for those people who are not already invested in musicals in some way, but if you have a high tolerance for that sort of thing, or if you already like Oklahoma, I think this soundtrack is worth seeking out. Pretty easy to find on streaming services. It's actually a bit expanded in that version from the version that was initially released on LP in 55. But yeah, Oklahoma soundtrack, really good, honestly. Definitely a sharp soundtrack, and no wonder why it was as successful as it was back in the day.